Hi folks, my name is Brady and we are back with another React video, and today we're going to be doing more of Geography Now. I was really excited about this one. Belgium is a really interesting country. I haven't learned too much about the Belgian homeland. I spent a semester learning about Belgium in Africa, Belgian colonialism in the Congo Free State is what it was called at the time. I've learned about that, and I know a little bit about Leopold II, but as far as like Belgium, the homeland goes, I never really learned too much about it. So to be able to learn about the other side, that sounds kind of interesting, right? Like, it's weird learning about it as sort of a one-way street, and I'm sure learning about Belgian colonialism gives me a more negative view of Belgium than I would get from just seeing the place in itself and its history or whatever. I don't know how good or bad it is. Like I said, not a lot of great foundation there. You look at any European nation and you start from colonialism, you're going to start with like a bad taste in your mouth. So I'm understanding that that's definitely not the best point of view to take of it first. So this would be a cool general learning experience about Belgium, so we're going to go through it. I don't know if we're going to be doing multiple countries today. I think we might just be doing Belgium today. So, yeah, I think we're just going to do Belgium today. All right, so let's get started.
Let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, France had a son named Wallonia, and the Netherlands had a son named Flanders. One day, a bunch of crazy stuff happened in Europe, yada, yada, yada. After all the crazy stuff subsided, Flanders was like, hey, Wallonia. Yeah? I'm gonna move out of my parents' place, and I got this new rad apartment, but I kinda need another guy to help me pay for the rent. I don't know, you're kind of a cool guy, I guess. Would you like to be my roommate? Yeah, sure, I guess. Why not? But just for the record, I don't speak any Dutch. Oh, no worries. I don't speak any French.
And it worked out happily ever after.
And that's how Belgium became a country, kind of.
That's not a bad introduction there. One other place that I encounter Belgium a little bit is when I'm playing GeoGuessr, of course. It always comes back to GeoGuessr when I'm talking about geography there, but it's a point of reference I have, and it's a great way of measuring how much knowledge about a place I do have. And when I see, like, the French language, I will typically go to France, but if it doesn't look very much like mainland France, I start to think, oh, maybe this is Belgium. There's something a little off about it. I don't know, maybe we're in Belgium. And it's so interesting seeing a place with multiple major languages like that. Like in the United States, we have a lot of people who speak Spanish, but there's still a significant minority. You good over there, bud? Okay, he's playing with his bell right now. You're just gonna have to ignore it or love it.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everybody, I'm your host, Paul Barbato. You've all probably at least heard of the name Belgium, and if you have, congrats!
Yes.
That's not enough. Let's dissect the flag.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. It's a pretty standard flag.
Belgium looks like the flag of Germany knocked over to the left side, but just keep in mind that the color sequence is black, yellow, red, not black, red, yellow. Also, the flag has an unusual proportion of 13 to 15, making it almost a square. The flag's colors are related to the country's coat of arms, the black representing the shield and determination, the yellow...
Dude, that freaking lion centerpiece thing, it's everywhere. Oh my god, you look at like the localized flags and that or a version of it, it's all over Europe, it seems. I don't care for it because it's just used so much, but I'm sure it's great in the context it comes from. But in my experience doing flag review, I've seen that flag, well, not that flag, that image and various images that look exactly like it, with different colors and whatever, but like more or less the same pose, same creature or whatever. And it's used everywhere. Oh my god.
representing the lion and generosity, and the red representing the lion's claws and tongue and the crown, as well as bravery and strength. Speaking of strength, you're going to need a lot of it to understand this next part.
Cool. I don't have a lot of
Learn
that.
anything about Belgium, the one thing you have to understand is how the country is split up. This is very important, so pay attention, Brandon!
Okay.
What? Azerbaijan? Yeah.
Dude, that was like 8 episodes ago. First of all, Belgium is located in Europe,
He's got a
right
team.
under the Netherlands and northeast of France, right at the foot of the North Sea next to the English Channel. In the most fundamental way I can put this, Belgium is divided into 3 regions. The Dutch, or the Flemish-speaking North region, called Flanders, the South, or French Walloon region, called Wallonia, and the capital,
That makes
Brussels,
sense.
acts in itself as a 3rd region and functions in a completely bilingual way. Most of the people in
I know these flags. I'm so happy. I've seen these flags doing flag review. This is great. That series was so pointless, but I'm glad it at least introduced me to some of these things, and there's something positive that came out of that instead of like me just offending people by crapping on their flags.
Brussels speak both Dutch and French. However, French is a little bit more prevalent. Got it? Okay, good, because we're not done. Each of the Flanders and Wallonia regions are then divided into 5 provinces each, making a total of 10 provinces. Brussels doesn't count and is considered its own region, not belonging to either Flanders or Wallonia, even though technically it's completely engulfed in Flanders. But then again, the region around Brussels has a French administrative area around the city called the BHV, or the Bruxelles-Alpes-Vivoud County, in which large numbers of French minorities live and can be judged in French, even though it's in Flanders. Still with me? Good, because it gets even crazier. The French also have administrative centers in the southeast and the southwest regions of Flanders, and a Wallonian municipal exclave in the West Flanders province called Commune Warneton, even though the people there speak Dutch. Furthermore, the Flemish have one municipal exclave in the Liège province in Wallonia called Voeren. Just getting started, though. Then you have the German-speaking minority in the east of Wallonia in the Liège province. Making propositions to create an 11th province called Upton-Saint-Wie. Speaking of Germans, Belgium has a
Wonder if that worked out. I know a lot of these are kind of dated. I understand this because a lot can happen in the amount of time it took between this video coming. Like they've gone a long way with this series since this video came out. So I understand that some of this stuff is dated. Some of it may have already panned out. Some of it may have not. So a
lot, and I repeat, a lot of weird territorial claims and boundaries. For one, there are technically 5 German exclaves hidden right along the border of the Liège province in East Belgium. However, these exclaves are only separated from mainland Germany from a Belgian train track, the Vennbahn, which is no longer in use. This means that you can be in Germany and only have 10 meters between you and Belgium between you go back into Germany. The smallest of these German exclaves is just a small house near the German town of Kosen with a front yard less than 2 hectares in area. Oh, but wait, there's more.
But who lives there?
The so confusing town of Barelnassa and Barelhertog, in which there are 22 Belgian enclaves in the Netherlands and 8 Dutch enclaves in Belgium, 7 of which are counter-enclaves, or a part of the Netherlands in Belgium in the Netherlands. These borders at first make no sense. Apparently,
they're both in the EU, right?
Streets, buildings, restaurants, stores, and even houses. A person can literally wake up in one country.
I mean, that is one great thing about the EU. I know the EU has like apparently some downsides, but like the having kind of a more open border system does make it a little easier for situations like this when you have a lot of things like this, when you don't have like to go through nearly as much to get into the your neighboring countries. So that they got that going for them at least.
And shower in the other.
I couldn't imagine what that's
Whatever
like.
side your front door is on is the country that you pay your taxes to.
I mean, I could imagine what that's like. It's like moving from state to state in a lot of ways. Other than, like, you know, the laws being different. No, the laws are different too sometimes. Yeah. I guess it is kind of relatable. In a very simple way, it is kind of relatable. I suppose it's not that insane.
The reason why it's so confusing is because, long story short, there was a guy ruling the area called Henry I, Duke of Brabant, who gave parcels of land to Godfrey II of Schoten, who ruled the area to the east, in an attempt to build an alliance so that his enemy Dirk VII wouldn't expand his influence. Long story short, Henry's land became Belgium, and Godfrey's land became the Netherlands. To this day, the two countries have stayed true to Godfrey and Henry's agreements and have split the land exactly how they did. But wait, we're not done just yet. Finally,
Oh, great.
Fusing Lys Rivière Canalerie River in the border between the Walloon province of Hainaut and France. Starting in the town of Hallou in France, this river zigzags for about 26 kilometers with multiple river islets and land pieces that act as penne enclaves until it all stops in the town of Armentières. Each side has an equal 7 enclaves each along the river. Okay, now let's talk about the landscape.
Does it go to
It's mostly flat. Outside the cities, there's farms and forests. It's pretty lush and green. However, the Worldwide Fund for Nature ranked Belgium pretty low in terms of their environmental performance, and the water quality was the
really?
lowest in the EU, mostly due to the high population density. Belgium isn't really
Okay, makes
agriculturally
sense.
driven. I mean, economically, most of their revenue comes from machinery, pharmaceuticals, diamonds, many of which were imported from the Congo. We'll explain about that in a little bit. And service.
Oh no, we gotta talk about the Congo. Oh god. Yeah. That's a brutal story of colonialism. Like, really bad. I don't know how they treat King Leopold II as like a historical figure over there. Like, I don't know if he has a place of honor or place of shame. But my God, that was incredibly brutal. Like, it was just like essentially like a slave colony where they just milked it for rubber. Because automobiles were becoming a thing and rubber was valuable and they had rubber, and rubber comes from trees and stuff, which, like, before I learned about the Congo, I didn't even really get where rubber came from, and that was a thing. So the rubber grows on trees. That's interesting.
And industry jobs as well. Okay, that's about it. Moving on.
Congo. I don't know if I want.
Now this is where things get really strange. In the shortest way I can put this, Belgium is kind of like an artificial country with technically no distinct former identity, in which two regions kind of became roommates, and the respective communities have a government with the same power as the central government. Huh. And you thought Andorra was confusing with that whole co-principality thing. Brother, please, I'm Belgium. Sit down, I'm gonna give you a lesson in complication monadics. First of all, Belgium has a little less than 11 million people. At about 57%, the slight majority of people are Flemish from Flanders, about 42% are Walloon from Wallonia, and 1% German from the German community. Keep in mind, although it's debatable, the terms Flemish and Walloon are more in reference to linguistic communities and not ethnicities. By definition, you could have a Congolese guy in Liège identifying as a Walloon and a Moroccan guy in Antwerp identifying as a Fleming. As long as they speak the languages and become citizens, that's pretty much it. In terms of race, though, about 77% of the people identify as ethnically Belgian, and the remaining 23% identify as non-Belgian in origin, some of the largest groups being Moroccans, Italians, Turks, and even Congolese from the Democratic Republic of Congo, as it was a former Belgian colony, along with Rwanda and Burundi, which is where a lot of the diamonds we talked about earlier come from. The Belgians even took over a small part of China for a couple decades in the 20th century in Tianjin, after quickly giving it back, and to this day, pictures from the Belgian Chinese colony are some of the rarest photos you can find in historical archives. As we mentioned,
sick.
Belgium has 3 distinct regions: Flanders, Walloon, and Brussels. However, regions weren't enough, and so Belgium decided to split things up even more into communities. Due to the minority, predominantly in the southeast, Belgium created a semi-mediary third community, even though only 1% of the country actually speaks German, less than the amount of people in Belgium who actually speak Arabic, and has instituted 3 separate governments.
Isn't that strange?
One for each language group: the Dutch, French, and German. Each of these governments actually has just as much power as the central government. Wait, what? On top of that, the French and Dutch
I wonder how they manage that.
provide cultural and social services to the citizens in Brussels, but not in the other region. This means that a family living in Brussels could possibly depend upon the central government for taxes, the French government for community centers, the Dutch government for schools, and the Brussels government for the police force. 4 governments.
Sounds terrible.
Then you have a king. Long story short, Belgium became a constitutional monarchy that started in 1830 with Philippe I as the current head of state. They are the only monarchy in Europe with no actual crown or lavish robes and scepters. They gained independence from the Netherlands. French-speaking Wallonia joined along, and then they
still a king, but
to become their first king. In terms of culture, Belgium can be attributed to a lot of things. For one, some of the world's most renowned surrealist artists came from Belgium, like René Magritte. Cartoons like the Smurfs and my homeboy Tintin. I have read almost every single one of those comics. Ain't nobody mess with Tintin. That dude is mad boss. The national dish is mussels with French fries and mayonnaise. Belgians will tell you that fries originate from Belgium. And of course, waffles. They make some of the best chocolate in the world that rivals Switzerland. And of course, everyone's favorite Belgian, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Of course, yeah. Oh, the chocolate stuff. That just brings me back to the to the terrible treatment of the Congo as well, because like I remember learning about how awful it was in the Congo, and then I learned like back in the mainland, they're selling these chocolate hands. They were like shaped like hands. They're not made of hands, but like while in the Congo, one of the big punishments for when they weren't performing enough labor, sufficient labor, they would cut off hands, or if they thought they were stealing or whatever, cutting off hands was a common punishment. And then back home, they sell these chocolate hands, and it's very morbid. It's a very morbid thing to think about.
EU and our
The chocolate hands were very famous.
administer their diplomatic affairs. Affairs with other countries we'll discuss in...
Oh no. Here we go.
Belgium, Belgium, Belgium. When will you learn? First of all, Belgium is...
I should bring up that he's probably going to talk about this, but technically, the Congo Free State was Leopold II's colony, not Belgium's colony. It was under the king himself, but not under the country. So I don't know how much he wants to talk about that. He has to.
Is a very neutral country after gaining independence from the Netherlands. Belgium quickly rose to become one of the leading powers of the industrialized Europe world, and it was a founding member of both the EU and NATO. This means that since day one, Belgium has had a huge entourage of affiliates that they've kind of kept close. However, some are still closer than others. The UK has always been a good buddy of Belgium since they played a pivotal role in the independence of Belgium. The US is also a good friend, and to this day, they still commemorate the Battle of the Bulge, in which the U.S. played a role in during the liberation of Belgium in World War II. The only country that might have a little bit of a distaste towards Belgium might be the Democratic Republic of Congo, as they were occupied and became a colony for a little less than a century. Belgium kind of did a lot of things to the Congo. Although things are generally eased off a bit today and numerous Congolese people immigrate to Belgium yearly, there's still a somewhat aversion that lingers on in the back of each Congolese mind when history is brought up. Of course, as you would guess, France is a close friend too, whom not...
We're just going to skim over that. I guess I've already mentioned a lot of the stuff they did. You know, a lot of people died, a lot of people were enslaved, a lot of hands were cut off, a lot of natural resources were just kind of taken using the forced labor. It's pretty dark.
Not only played a role in Belgium's independence, but also culturally resonates with the South Walloon region as well. The Netherlands is a close friend as they jive well with the Flanders region, despite the fact that they have a somewhat friendly rivalry with each other. Over the years, many referendums have actually passed in Belgium in which they almost considered re-annexing themselves back to their respective neighboring countries, the Netherlands and France. However, they just can't seem to do it, even though the sense of nationalism is kind of weak, except during soccer games in which they go all out Belgian pride. They still can't seem to let go of each other for some weird reason. In terms of their best friend, though, they would probably consider Luxembourg. Luxembourg is kind of seen as like the little brother of Belgium and has been there with Belgium since the very beginning. They were even for a short while part of Belgium after independence, and their own monarchs, Philip I and Grand Duke Henry, are actually cousins too. In conclusion,
they're all related.
Indisputably the most
they're all related.
Engineered country in all of Europe, and by all means, it makes no sense how they've kept it together for almost 200 years, but they actually did somehow. Belgium, we dip our fries in mayonnaise to you. Stay tuned, Belize is coming up next.
Oh, Belize. That's an interesting flag. I'm curious of the origins of that one. We've learned a little bit about Belgium today. I mean, I come from a place where, like the United States, we're not necessarily a country built on like ethnic similarity. We're kind of also a hodgepodge of things in our own sort of way. So I guess I can understand the interesting place of identity with Belgium, but they seem a little bit more attached to those previous identities. While I don't know exactly what it's like on the mainland here in the United States, we kind of create our own little hyphenated culture. Like you take, I don't know, pick anything, Italian American, Irish American, English American, French American, whatever it is. The American version of what it means to be French or Italian or Irish or whatever is always kind of a unique thing with some reference to before, to the other country, but Like, we kind of make it our own. It's kind of unrecognizable in a lot of ways to people from that original country. But with Belgium, they are so close to those places that they're not really all that far separated. So there are some things that would make us very different from them in our origins and how we are able to get so far away from those origins while they are right next door to those origins, which is rather interesting. Belgium's a really interesting country. There's a lot there. So I guess we'll call it a day. We'll do Belize and maybe another one next time. We'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be back in the near future with another one, and I will see you next time. All right.